What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. The new mid-season patch just dropped today. 15 heroes get changed, 6 of them being support heroes. First up is Doomfist, whose rocket punch minimum wall stun duration has been decreased from 0.25 to 0.15. And the maximum wall stun duration has been decreased from 0.75 to 0.6. When they start shaving off these fractions of a second on Doomfist, I think you'll most often notice it when you're trying to secure solo eliminations, because if the enemy can get off their escape cooldown before you can finish them off, those solo plays are a bit less effective. D.va's micro missiles projectile speed has been increased from 40 to 50, and the fusion cannon's movement speed penalty goes down from 40 to 30%. These are mega buffs. Projectile speed on micro missiles, I think, matters the most in terms of tracking aim. They'll be easier to hit. The fire rate's the same, and usually you'd use it at close range anyway, but especially on zippy targets like odd hitbox supports, it'll be easier for the missiles to actually land. But running things down while firing the fusion cannons, that's a really big deal. 10% movement increase, which also is actually a DPS increase. Getting closer to the target you're pursuing means you'll do more meaningful damage. D.va's one of the tanks that really lost in the great shuffle up of power. With supports getting power crept, they're kind of making D.va's numbers a bit over the top, in my opinion, to overcompensate. Because I don't think D.va's kit is weak at all, but the game's kind of advanced past her. Winston's Tesla cannon's secondary fire range has been increased from 30 to 40 meters. That's quite a distance away. And remember, a lot of hit scan characters got reined in, which is also another reason why I think a lot of the medium range support hit scans like Illari and Baptiste kind of reign supreme at that medium range, or at least did on the previous patch. You can kind of like outsnipe a Widow now with her lower health pool. The time to kill is so slow on this, no one really finds it too useful, but I think up against flying characters, especially pursuing a Mercy, Winston's like one of the only options you really have to contest anything vertically with any consistency. But with the devs considering a Pharah rework anyway, perhaps the game can be closer to the ground. But for now, at least, Winston gets a sniper monkey buff. The next change is to Bastion. The configuration assault cooldown has been increased from 10 to 12 seconds, and the weapon spread increased by 10%. This means some squishier targets won't find it so threatening, actually. 10% is a big deal, and it already wasn't as severe against some squishies, as crazy powerful as you might assume the assault form to be for Bastion. A Soldier 76 with no recoil aim on you from medium range would more accurately have a good time to kill on you, and that difference will be much more elaborate now that it's even worse on his spread. This probably puts him back in more of a niche category. However, the one main buff he did retain is the improvements to the tac nade. Bastion might still be okay, but other range characters will be better at squishy duels for sure. Cassidy's magnetic grenade cooldown has increased from 10 to 12 seconds. I'm not so sure this is a balance consideration because Cassidy wasn't necessarily one of the better picks this last patch, but if you look at the theme of the patch so far, a lot of the CC is just getting minorly tuned back, so maybe that's what that's about. May's endothermic blaster's slow effect decreased from 40% to only 30%. But remember, the recent patch reverted the DPS on it anyway, so the slow effect isn't really necessarily what's so important. It's kind of negligible at this point. Really good against a few characters like Wrecking Ball and just in general stopping a tank from running away from your support disables, and stacking those disables on top of one another is still going to be oppressive. Sombra's ultimate cost has decreased by 10%. Getting your ult 10% faster is a huge deal, but Sombra's EMP is so hard to use, and I think honestly just so misunderstood. Like, a lot of players play Sombra today like she played years ago, and it wasn't like the community had widespread mastery of the character even back then. But the timing on EMP is so easy to get wrong that it looks like a weak ultimate, but now at least you'll be able to generate it more quickly. And from watching Samito's content, he made a guide on the character recently, you should use it more so just to nuke a single target. Remember, it's an instant cast of hack, which is going to buff your virus. Just try to secure that one kill, at least most of the time. Symmetra gets a nerf where her base shield health has been reduced from 125 to just 100, so she has 200 total HP now. Will self-regen with the 100 extra health, but I think this is the kind of nerf that makes more sense with how defensive a lot of the support kit stacked on top of each other in the recent hero additions. At the previous health value, Sim could really just walk over for a lot of the tanks, which felt really silly. And at 225 HP, a lot of things that maybe should have more easily burst her in front for overextending onto the tank just wouldn't. And she would just dominate the tank battle by existing. It's kind of ridiculous. Her primary fire ramp up is so severe, I think it's pretty fair that there is a cutoff cost to that. Remember, they nerfed the turret's effectiveness a ways back, giving it a recon effect instead. I think Sim will still be good on her good maps, like she's supposed to be, but maybe not so forgiving against a lot of different matchups. Widowmaker gets a couple small buffs. Her ultimate cost has reduced by 10%, which for other characters might be a really big deal, but for most players, since you have to hit shots as Widow, it's more of a high tier player advantage. The devs seemingly looking to give Widow more power, seeing as they're pretty confident at leaving her at a diminutive state in 175 health, where I think there's just lots of characters that easily either flank or outpoke her, and it takes a lot of skill to overcome that disadvantage. Another buff they gave her in that light is to improve her Widowmaker 76 primary fire, where unscoped shots to reach maximum spread has increased from 3 to 7. So that means 7-round bursts will be highly accurate, actually, giving Widow a better chance, especially I'd say when she like body shots and needs to SMG down a Genji. But still, I think pretty easily countered unless you're a top tier player. Onto the support changes now. Biotic Grenade for Ana gets a cooldown increase going from 10 to 12. A pretty massive nerf. The type of nerf that makes it more required to play alongside a main support who can protect you like Lifeweaver, Brig, or perhaps Mercy, seeing as those windows of downtime for exploitability are now increased significantly. And that was what they said they wanted to do in the blog post, so let's see what else they do with the other support heroes. Baptiste's Immortality Field health has been decreased from 150 to 125, and the cooldown goes up from 23 to 25 seconds. I'd say those are good nerfs, but also not so transformative to his kit, because the way you should use Lamp anyway is set up around a corner or to save something from the brink of death than healing them up anyway. A lot of times there's way more Lamp uptime than you actually need. I'm very thankful that they're reducing the amount of ammo it takes to destroy these deployables, because when there's multiple of them especially, it starts to get overkill where you have to clear so many things out before you get to shoot the enemy. 25 health isn't really enough for me though, but the 2 seconds extra on Lamp may matter in those like extended fights where kills are traded out, Bap rotates back out. The time that it'll be for him to get his second one, retreating and soft resetting, will start to reveal itself, kind of similar to the Ana change. Illari's Healing Pylon base health has been reduced from 75 to 50, so now it has 100 total HP, and the cooldown when destroyed is also increased from 12 seconds to 15. In my experience, players don't focus down the turret like they should. There's certain characters that are pretty well equipped to go scout out where the turret is and remove it, remembering that's kind of her safety blanket, as well as a big percentage of her healing output. So having 15 seconds of downtime when a good percentage of your power budget is offline makes Illari a lot more exploitable. But the overall health really matters on a thing like this, because one of the more annoying things about the turret meta is just needing to expend ammo to clear out a deployable and then not necessarily having enough to properly take the duel. A Pharah rocket, for example, does 120 damage. So clearing it out with 1 rocket versus 2, considering you only have 6 before you gotta reload, is a big deal. Because remember, she's shooting back at you. Genji, for example, does 81 damage with a volley of shurikens, so 1 more will do the trick. Lucio does 20 damage per shot, shoots 4 at a time, that's 80, so just over 1 volley of damage from him clears it out. A lot of things are more efficient at clearing this out now. Illari gets an even bigger nerf though, where the projectile size has been reduced from 0.1 to 0.05. Now when they say projectile, they mean like the projectile hit of the hitbox thing, hit scan. It's a hit scan, but called a projectile, whatever. This is a super important and key nerf, the kind that might actually change the queue times of the game, because so many elite tier DPS were simply locking Illari as a support player because the hitbox was so forgiving. Your shots are going to be a lot harder to hit now. Kiriko's Protection Suzu cooldown has been increased from 14 to 15 seconds. I think this one just keeps in the theme, and as I would imagine, Kiriko's win rate isn't through the roof anyways. I think they're just keeping this in concept now because this is such a small increase, but does add up over multiple escapes for sure. Lifeweaver's Healing Blossom ammo has been reduced from 20 to 16, and the max heal has been reduced by 5. It was 75, now goes down to 70. For my money, this guy's heal output for the amount of skill required was outrageous. If he plays right, it's very hard to flank flank him unless you send multiple players at him. And then when you fight the target he's healing, you need some overwhelming burst damage to stand a chance. 5 health a shot might not seem like a big nerf, but again, he sends out multiple of these over time, and it was such a high number that it felt effective enough at healing tanks as well, especially with the big capacity of ammo that he had. Like, I never felt that I had to say, guys, I'm reloading as Lifeweaver. I just always had enough healing as long as I positioned appropriately. Well, now with lower overall ammo capacity and lower heal numbers, you'll have less to spread around to the entire team. With more reload time and lower overall heal stats as well, you'll be building Tree of Life significantly slower, which was another thing I felt was just ridiculous about Lifeweaver. Not only did he keep your whole team alive during the fight, he then would have really quick Trees of Life, which was a huge carry play in its own right after its buffs. On top of that, Life Grip's cooldown has been increased from 16 to 19 seconds. So not quite as long as a lamp cooldown, but getting close to it. 16 seconds felt like you could almost always get 2 of them out in a fight, but at 19, I'm starting to think there's sometimes you won't have it up in time. So you'll have to be a little bit more careful when using it just to heal. Good nerfs in my opinion. I think Lifeweaver will still be quite good. And overall, with the turret meta nerfs in general, I think Lifeweaver has the most applicable playstyle to other styles of play, because the way he sort of just holds his own position and can heal at range, he works with a lot of comps. Whereas the turret supports, which also got nerfed, see increased value when supporting Bastion, for example. Zenyatta gets some buffs. His base health has increased from 50 to 75. So now he has a total of 225 HP, the rest of it, of course, being shield health. That's an outrageous buff. We've seen Giga Zen before. Keep in mind, they did add the rework to Sombra, who feasts on a character like Zen, so a little extra health maybe is what he needs to not be a free kill to lots of things. They do compensate for this quite massive buff of extra health. Extra health is one of the biggest buffs they can give a character. First, actually, Harmony Orb gets a buff where the time to wear off when not in line of sight has increased from 3 to 5 seconds. 5 seconds is forever. So that means you can cast a Orb of Harmony onto a flanker, and they can go on a mission in the enemy's backline for 5 full seconds while receiving Orb of Harmony, and Zen doesn't even have to see the play. That's pretty incredible. So these are 2 huge buffs, but Discord Orb does get a significant nerf. It now has a 7-second cooldown per target. So similar to how you can't bubble a teammate twice in a row as Zarya, you can't Discord the same target once they line of sight away from it. You can't apply it again for 7 full seconds. But the range on it does go up from 30 to 40 meters. So in my opinion, this is much, much worse against flankers, because against them, the range increase doesn't matter too much anyway. They're closing the distance on you. But if they scurry around a corner and you can't cast the Discord on them again for 7 seconds, that's an eternity. But your compensation buff is you have extra health in order to fight that off. The downside though, the whole Discord being applied to tanks thing, I'm not so sure goes away, because now he can apply it to your tank earlier by seeing him from farther away. He was already good on some of these sniper maps. So now your tank trying to contest the point, Zen can get a 40-meter angle on you and pressure you out. Now you can take cover to dodge the Discord, so there is moments for you to close the distance, but I think it's harder in Overwatch 2 for more tanks to disengage from the fight long enough to self-cleanse the Discord, and it's much easier for the Zen team to pin the tank back and maintain line of sight until the tank dies. And of course, Zen getting more health himself makes a lot of tanks that are used to being able to kill him not as effective at that. So I think a bigger nerf against Winston, who's got limited damage anyway, but remember a character like D.va just got her single target damage going up, so maybe she'll be the go-to dive tank to nuke a Zen. My personal favorite option is Wrecking Ball, who I think has kind of the best of both worlds with the speed to go in and out, break line of sight of that Discord, and even fully abuse Zen harsher than before, and probably still has the damage to overcome the health buff. Guys, that's everything for the patch notes today. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.